think the instinct has always been to, if they can, accelerate something that they were going to do in the summer anyway. So Antoine Semenyo, they obviously weren't able to get him over the line. So are they actually going to go and commit money now? You might argue they should do, because that would maybe give them an extra edge in this quest to get Champions League football.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. That's Laurie Whitwell, and this is Inside United. It's me and Laurie today. No Joe. We finally got rid of Joe, haven't we?
2 shows in a row.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, I feel lighter. I feel more excited.
You do look
in.
more sort of, happier.
Well, it's you, isn't it?
Yeah,
Jay?
this is it, man. I mean, I like Joe. He's mildly amusing. He's got half decent football knowledge. He's got a fine beard. But it's about time we had the two multi-award-winning journalists chatting to each other.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
What's he ever won?
Exactly nothing. Do you know what I mean? So
Beard of the year 2024, actually, he did win that.
Biggest hipster, Stretford Paddock, 2020 to 2025, to be fair. He's won it every
undefeated
year.
In that.
Yeah, he's undefeated, and he's on for 2026 as well. We're going to chat, obviously, about what's been going on at United. Loads happening. I want to start, though, with... I was doing my news the other day, and just before we're about to go live...
sorry.
So inconsiderate. Doesn't even give me a heads up or anything. I seen a tweet with an exclusive by Mr. Laurie Whitwell. Devastating news.
Yeah.
Devastating. The worst news I've ever had.
Yeah.
Patrick Dorgu out for 10 weeks. I mean, just talk us through that. Obviously, we know he's out for 10 weeks. What games are going to miss? And what do you think this does for Michael Carrick and his plans?
Yeah, so I think the reason why it surprised people or it kind of hit hard is obviously because Dorgu's been brilliant, really, hasn't he? Certainly these last 2 games, but even before that, against Newcastle, I think this sort of run probably started. And even against Burnley, was sort of doing stuff that was, you could say, okay, this is improving. But clearly the goal against City and then the spectacular, what on earth was that against Arsenal?
I'm still not over it, I mean, I don't want to be over it.
No,
I just love it. Every now and again, I watch it again. It's just like you're just like bored on your phone. Like,
is he still going to go? Yep, crossbar down in. Because there was that moment when I was watching it, thinking, "Oh, it's going to bounce out," but then it goes into the side net, and you're like, "That is beautiful."
And you know when there was the hint of VAR, and you're like, I honestly, right?
I was getting angry.
Yeah, I was like, when you sort of flash forward, I was like, I'm quitting watching football. I'm getting rid of my season ticket. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, genuinely.
The TV's half the way out the window.
I was just going to walk out the door and just not come back. I thought, I can't be arsed with football if we're going to stop goals like this. So I was so relieved.
Oh, let's have a look closer. Well, actually, we can't disallow it because it's inconclusive. How about, why is that even the question?
I know.
We can't disallow it. Why are you even trying to disallow it? Yeah. Just have a look at it once. Clearly not handball. Right,
move
on you go. Anyway, but then... Yeah, the disappointing news. Well, it was then another sort of long pass, wasn't it, that he was chasing after. It looked like he had the bit between his teeth.
Yeah.
He had the shot just before that, didn't it, that whistled over. So he was clearly trying to get in behind again and again, particularly with Arsenal, maybe having a bit more territory as United were winning the game. But yeah, felt the back of his leg, looked like a hamstring at that point. Was it a bit of cramp there as well? It looked like it could be cramp. Michael Carrick said that after the game. People that I sort of spoke to that had observed it said it could be cramp. People that would understand the game. But yeah, then got news. What day is it now then? Was it Tuesday morning?
It would have been Tuesday. We was live,
that it could be more severe, hamstring, and the original sort of the instinct so far is 10 weeks, which is significant, right? It's a big chunk of time. It puts him out until I think there's the Leeds game at home. I think that would maybe be his return. Now, we have to say that there's still scans ongoing as well. So this is after a sort of initial scan, and that's the feeling around certain people that have been given this kind of information. But there's still more scans to be had. There's a hope maybe it could be less than that. Obviously, Patrick Dorgu is a fit lad. He's athletic. Can he recover quicker than that? But I think the fact that it's a hamstring injury rather than cramp, and it's going to be a number of weeks, is the significant detail, and let's see how long it ends up actually being. It's never an exact science, is it? Matthijs de Ligt has been out for a considerable amount of time now with a back injury that didn't initially look like it was going to be bad, but I think 10 weeks is what the initial instinct is on it.
It's it's frustrating, isn't it? Because he's doing so well. I'm glad you pointed out it didn't just start under Michael Carrick. We saw this in the games leading up to it. I remember, I think it was at the Newcastle game, I think, when I first heard people calling him Ballon Dorgu. And I was like, I love that, having that one. So we saw the signs like that he was growing into his role at United. We hear that he's been doing extra training and stuff, sort of out of hours. And
he does his personal training, doesn't he?
Which I was impressed with. I think it's good to see players doing everything they can to get into teams. He's not had it easy, but he's sort of getting to the point now where everyone's loving him. And then literally just when you're sort of reaching this the highlight of your United career so far. 5 minutes later, you've picked up an injury, which is going to take you away from potentially just over half the games that we've got left.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It's frustrating when you look at it and you look at what's going on. And in fact, we're going to lose Dorgu. Do you think this is just a case of now the club are going to look at maybe bringing Cunha in or switching it around with Sesko, whatever? Is there any indication that the club would go into the transfer market to do something about this?
Yeah, it's a question that I think quite a lot of people were asking on The Athletic when we did the story, and obviously on the different socials that we've got. I don't get the impression that this is going to change what they were going to do anyway. Not to kind of dampen any excitement around transfer deadline day.
No, it's fair enough.
But the instinct has always been to, if they can, accelerate something that they were going to do in the summer anyway. So Antoine Semenyo, they obviously weren't able to get him over the line. So are they actually going to go and commit money now? You might argue they should do, because that would maybe give them an extra edge in this quest to get Champions League football, and that would massively change the dynamic of the kind of revenue that they can generate. But I think there's also a feeling that, well, we've only got a certain number of games left. Is it 15 now?
I think so.
So, if you bring somebody in now, are they really going to get the game time anyway? Because you have got Cunha, you've got Mason Mount. It's an interesting one with Dorgu, that it's like, from being sort of left wing back to start the season, then not actually really in the team, then coming back as a sort of right winger against Newcastle, and then in this recent run, left winger. You sort of hadn't really thought of him as somebody that, if he's taken out the team, oh wow, what we're going to do?
It's mad, isn't it? If you just said 6 weeks ago, whatever, a Dorgu injury is going to devastate the entire Manchester United fan base. I'd have gone, what are you on about? But that's what happened. When that news came out, everyone was just like, we were live and all the comments were like, devastated, what we're going to do, this is a nightmare. He's a player that's just flying, and you think that, because you mentioned, it's such fine margins with us trying to get this Champions League spot, that losing a player like that can have a massive effect.
I think because he brings a special skill set, right, where, okay, he's not been perfect this season, but you can clearly see the technique that he's got in certain, having his shots, also that athleticism, that ability to do it repeatedly, the strength that he's got, the touches, obviously the passing exchange with Bruno Fernandes alone was enough to kind of get you a bit excited, then the strike after that. So I think that's probably why, as you say, the kind of reaction to it, I think my tweet has got 5 million impressions on it or something.
Really?
It's insane, honestly. It's crazy.
Did anyone have a go at you for breaking the news? Did anyone have a go at you for spreading bad news? That was me. I've seen that before sometimes when you tell people something they don't want to know, and then they start having a go at you like it's your fault.
I think it was more, the football gods were getting the criticism, can't we just have a 2-week period where we're blissfully happy? This has to come along and interrupt it. No, I've had criticism for suggesting that Amorim might be thinking about changing his lineup, changing the formation ahead of the Bournemouth game. I got criticism for leaking that, but no, not on this one. Obviously, It's just something that's happened, and it will come out in time. I'm sure Carrick will be. Well, he definitely will be asked about it at the press conference, and he will, I expect, to say, "Listen, it's early days. We don't know exactly how long he's going to be out for, but we can confirm a hamstring injury." So, I just think in terms of his development into this sort of point, hopefully he can come back and then keep on where he's left off. And in terms of United actually then getting the Champions League place, I think the reason why he was selected sort of ahead of Cunha, for example, so it was Fletcher, wasn't it, that sort of initially put him on the left. Cunha was on the right against Burnley. It was interesting because Gary Neville in the commentary was like, he's going to switch them at some point surely, because he'd done well against Newcastle on the right with the back four. And I don't think that was ever going to happen. And the reason why Dorgu was sort of selected on the left was because Luke Shaw was a full-back, which is a position I think he's wanted to have a bit more of this season, or even a wing-back. He's started a lot of Premier League games, 23 I think so far. He's on course to do his most in the season, but it's because he's able to kind of adapt his game a little bit. Obviously it's one game a week, but that still means that you need somebody ahead of him that can do that defensive work as well. So the two of them together on that flank, whereas if you've got Cunha on the left, it does change a little bit the way you have to play. So it'd be interesting to see if Cunha does come in just straight away on the left, does he have that work rate to do what Dorgu was doing, or do you have to kind of adapt it so that maybe your midfielder changes, and has more responsibility to get across and cover that side of the pitch. But it'd be interesting. Mason Mount clearly has that in him. Maybe not the explosiveness of Patrick Dorgu, but so that'd be interesting to me to see who Michael Carrick turns to on that situation.
It is interesting. At least we've got options, because you could even, I'm just thinking here when you were talking, then you could even maybe try, if you brought a Sesko into the team and put Ahmad maybe on that left, because he's played wing back, hasn't he?
Yeah.
For the last sort of year.
He's been really good out of possession as well.
Yeah,
pressing.
He's someone who would help track back and help out defensively. And at least you have got those options. While it is gutting that we're losing Dorgu, it's not like you're going, okay, we're going to have to bring in an untested youngster.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it just looks, it's weird, isn't it? What a difference a few weeks made. Because all of a sudden, I was looking at like the bench the other day, and even when I've seen like against City when it was like Mbumo coming off for Cunha, you're like, that's such a good sub in terms of the quality. And then you're looking, you've got like Sesco, you've got Mount on the bench, you've got options there, you've got like obviously some of the youngsters as well. It's like all of a sudden things are looking, everything just feels a little bit more positive about the squad and everything. And having one game a week obviously is a massive plus as well. I want to talk to you about another player who's sort of getting his flowers, and rightly so at the minute, Harry Maguire. It's weird with Maguire. We seem to go through this thing every few months where everyone goes how well Harry Maguire's doing, how much everyone loves him, how much he's redeemed himself, and you think, I think we're past the point of redemption with Harry Maguire. I think that ended about 2 years ago.
I think I wrote, that piece about a year ago, which probably was a bit late anyway. So,
because the Lyon game, everyone was like, it's redemption for Maguire. And I remember saying, I think we're done with that.
Yeah.
What's going on with him sort of longer term? Because obviously he's been a big part of the success we've had under Michael Carrick. Those 2 games, I think he's been fantastic. Not just sort of the performances, but the leadership qualities as well. Throwing Gabriel about, we'd love to see that. Throwing Bernardo Silva about, just love all that.
Yeah.
There's thought though that maybe he might not get a new contract, or he could get a new contract. What's the latest?
I think it's open.
Right.
Obviously, United, from their point of view, will want to see how the season goes. Yeah. And listen, if Maguire's starting matches and playing as he is doing, it's hard to say he shouldn't get another year at least, because, yeah, fine, you might think that ultimately you want Lenny Yoro to step into that position, Aidan Heaven, although he's left-footed, so maybe it's not quite as simple as putting him in place of Harry Maguire. But I think that United will, say one away. I'm sure that he would love to stay at United, but there is interest in him, from different clubs. Like Harry Maguire on a free transfer, there'll be a big market for that. And obviously he can talk to foreign clubs right now, but I don't get the impression anything's going to be sorted at this point. I think that the club will wait really to see how it develops, and obviously the switch now from a back three centre-backs to 2 centre-backs does change the dynamic a bit in terms of what his availability, what his options would be next season. But I just think there's a quality to somebody that has had all that experience, clearly is diligent about the game, clearly cares for the club. It's been 2019, wasn't it, that he joined? So it's been 7 years.
It's mad, that, you almost forget, don't you, that he's been here for that long.
Yeah.
And he has played a lot of good games for Manchester United during that time as well.
He's had a lot of good moments, hasn't he? You just think in certain circumstances, there's nobody better really for that. The set piece sort of skills that he has, both in his own box and in the opposition box, is I think significant. So you can't discount that. It's obviously just the money, right? So he got a good contract when he signed for United because he was an £80 million transfer, £190,000 a week. That does reduce because of the Champions League. Right. So all players have this Champions League cut. It's 25% as a standard. I'm not sure. I don't think that's to every player. I think you can negotiate your own terms on that.
Tried to, didn't he?
He did. He I think he sort of got a bit perturbed when the paycheck landed and it wasn't quite as much as it used to be, and there was some attempts at renegotiation. But but it's obvious, right? If United's revenue goes down, they have to enforce some kind of pay cut to the players. But that means then that, say United, it doesn't really matter in Harry Maguire's case because he's out of contract, but players that have a lower earning this season, if they qualify for the Champions League, it just automatically goes up. So that's something to factor into negotiations as we go. So for example, Lisandro Martinez, I think his contract may be something that comes up as a point of conversation. I think he got 1 year plus 1 maybe. So I think that'd be something to explore as well. But Maguire, so it just depends, right? Are United going to look at it and go, come towards the end of the season, listen, we appreciate what Maguire brings us still on the pitch, but also around the club as well. We think he deserves this amount. Will that be enough for Maguire? Is there going to have to be some negotiation? Does he want to play every week as well still? So he's 32, I think nearly 33. You kind of feel that for a centre-back, you are pushing on in your career, but you still got a couple of years at least left. You feel like, look at Johnny Evans, and he was still playing for United.
Yeah, definitely.
Way beyond when anyone.
When he came back, I remember started against Burnley, was it a couple of seasons ago? And I remember my group chats were all going, "Man, what are we doing? Oh, this is ridiculous." And he was man of the match.
Ping's the assist. Was that the game for Bruno Fernandes?
Yeah, it was. Everyone's deleting messages I was reading him.
And so, I mean, listen, he's in the leadership group as well still, Maguire. So I don't know. Listen, we'll see what they ultimately end up deciding. But I wouldn't be surprised if they end up coming around the table and getting something sorted, at least for one more year.
How difficult is it, Laurie, as well, when we don't know who the manager's going to be?
Yeah.
Because even from Maguire's point of view, like obviously, De Ligt's injured at the minute, which probably helps his cause in terms of starting. I'm not saying he wants that to happen, but that's one player that might have been in his way in the first team. Carrick obviously trusts Maguire. Carrick might not be here next season. De Ligt might be fit, or will be fit eventually. So there's a lot of unknown, isn't there? You don't know, as it stands, we don't know if we're going to have Champions League football. You think we would, or at least European football, but we don't know. So it just feels like it's a strange situation, isn't it, for everyone? Because even if you're going to Maguire and saying, look, we really value you, a manager might come in who don't rate him, who prefers Lenny Yoro or Aidan Evan or De Ligt or Martinez. Yeah. And then it's like, you've just signed a new deal, you're 32, 33.
That's why they'll have to wait.
Yeah.
And it's, I suppose it is whether Maguire would be satisfied at waiting. I feel like, we've had this situation before where he could have gone to West Ham a couple of seasons ago, maybe 3 now, and he didn't want to ultimately. He wanted to fight for his place, and look, he's been proven right, really. I know he's not played every single week,
but massively.
I think he's still contributed enough where he's feeling gratification in what he's doing, and the club have been beneficiaries of that as well.
Mate, it's worth it just for that goal at Anfield. That's enough for me.
Exactly.
Jesus, seriously.
At Anfield to score in that kind of situation. Yeah, and then come back. So, I mean, the injury, for example, I don't think he's been out for that long in his career. I think it was a hamstring, and then I think he got a bit of a calf thing as well. So anyway, they wanted to keep it, conservative in terms of his comeback and not rush it, so that you're then having another injury. But clearly, as you say, Carrick has come straight in, started him day one, against Man City.
Such a bonus that wasn't it for Carrick to have Maguire available.
Yeah,
because it almost got forgotten about because Carrick comes in. You've got this massive game against City at home. Obviously, De Ligt's still injured, and you could have played Aidan Heaven. You could have gone with Lenny Yoro. I don't think anyone would have been like, "Oh my God, what's he doing?" But there's no denying that Maguire was a huge part of that win because he was just fantastic.
Just brings authority, doesn't he?
Yeah,
in that type of game. Now, I accept that maybe then, as you change styles at moments, like this was the whole thing when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was trying to sort of move, and then Erik ten Hag came in, and I think obviously Maguire was out of the team then, wasn't he, when he first sort of came in. You have Varane and Martinez, but maybe a high line does affect what you can do with Maguire, but I don't know, there's obviously a spectrum, right, in terms of where the position of the play is going to be. So against Arsenal, it was almost like a mid block, really, wasn't it? Where you're not defending deep, so you're having to counter so far, but equally you're not high pressing, so that there's space in behind for Arsenal to exploit. So it felt like a good sort of balance for what Maguire can bring, and so there's going to be more games like that for sure.
Yeah, even running with the ball, you forget that he's got that in his locker.
That was in the Dorgu goal. That started the Dorgu goal.
That's what I mean.
I went back and watched it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to run it. But you think, going back to his Leicester days, I remember watching him for Leicester doing stuff like that. I remember doing it at Anfield, and you're like,
Hull City, that's what he made his sort of name sort of doing. I mean, I actually saw him play against United in the FA Youth Cup final.
Oh yeah, for Sheffield United, I remember that.
In 2011. Yeah. I hadn't realised, but he got knocked out at Old Trafford.
How was it that game? I can't remember anything
I can't remember that at all, but I was speaking to somebody
genuinely
recently. He got knocked out in like the 35th minute or something. Do you know who knocked him out?
Go on.
Ravel Morrison. I'm like,
I can't believe I didn't guess. When you said, you know what it's about? Ravel Morrison's right there. What is wrong with you, Jay? Come on.
It was accidental. I have to add that in, but
the chaos that sort of engulfs Ravel Morrison. It was an obvious answer, wasn't it? So I was at that game, but I knew after the fact that he played in it, because it got brought up a lot, didn't it? The fact that he was part of that Sheffield United team.
He was told, it was John Pemberton who was the youth coach for Sheffield United at the time, and they were saying that Harry Maguire, this is a player that we really believe in. And then he had his sort of, even when he went to Hull though, under I think Steve Bruce, he didn't get in the team straight away. Mike Phelan was there at the time as well. Right. And then obviously goes to Leicester, has a really good couple of years at Leicester, and United obviously pay the big money for him.
Another sort of reason that he became so wanted by a lot of clubs, including I think City, looking at was his performances for England.
Yep.
Do you think, I know this is more of an opinion, I'm expecting you to know, but do you think that Thomas Tuchel might get him in the England squad for the upcoming World Cup? Because, I mean, he sort of ticks all the boxes when you're thinking about it. He's experienced, he's played a lot for England, he's done very well for England, he's playing well at the minute, he's in a team that are doing well, which he couldn't have said that a year ago. What do you reckon? Do you think he could gate crash the party?
I thought the same as you, particularly when you look at who Thomas Tuchel has been picking: Jordan Henderson, Dan Burn.
Come on, let's be real. Like, no disrespect to Dan Burn, but like seriously. No, do you know
what are you saying, Jay?
Come on, I'll say it with my chest out. Harry Maguire's a far superior player to Dan Burn, and if you're going to pick one of the two, I'm not saying it's a binary choice, but if it is, you'd pick Harry Maguire all day long. Is
the left-footed aspect
come on,
a factor?
Yeah, mate, I'd rather have a right-footed player there than a left-footed one who's not as good.
You made a point very, very compellingly there, Jay. I'm not the England manager, so you don't have to argue to me. But
I do. Just listen, right? I'll stop going on about Dan Burn.
Okay, sorry,
Jesus Christ, get over him.
Well, in one way, I'm sort of using him as an example as to why Maguire might be included, but then at the same time, if he's already got Dan Burn in the building, maybe that's who his guy is. But yeah, I don't know. I just haven't heard anything that would suggest that he's in there thinking, to be honest, which did surprise me.
It's a bit of a shame that, because I think I heard this and don't know if it's true or not, but it might be, that there was a lot of frustration with a lot of the England players the way he was treated under Gareth Southgate for that last squad.
Maguire?
Yeah, where he looked like he was going to go despite his injury, and then Southgate's attitude changed and he didn't end up taking him. I think I heard that a few of the England players, because he's such a popular figure, and he was so devastated by it because he thought he was going, and then it was like last minute, actually. And also Luke Shaw, who was injured, went anyway.
Right, for the Euros.
Yeah, sorry, I should have qualified that for the Euros, because you remember the reports that Maguire's going to go. He's not 100%, but he will be fit during the tournament, and because of his personality, his experience, and the qualities he's got, Southgate's looking to take him anyway. And then during the last camp or whenever it was, the mood changed, or Southgate changed his mind and was like, look, I'm not taking you. And I heard that a lot of players were a bit annoyed at the way it had been handled, because Harry Maguire was devastated.
That rings true, to be fair. I can remember now, because that was also the case with Jack Grealish, because he didn't get taken, didn't he?
No.
And I think there was players that sort of made representation. I think Harry Kane sort of made representation to suggest that there's more to it than just having exactly who you want on the pitch, or because
these are popular figures, aren't they, in that camp?
It's camp. You're away on tour. You need people around the place, not just as cheerleaders, but clearly can do it as well on the pitch. But I think there was So
I did feel for Harry Maguire there, because I think no matter what you think about him at United, and you might argue we overpaid for him, you might argue that he should have won more or whatever. I like Maguire. I'm not saying that, but that is an argument you hear about him. I don't think you can fault him for England.
Yeah,
like the guy just turns up. He's,
scores penalties.
The best penalty, probably the best penalty I've ever seen. Smashes cameras while he's doing it. Like, what's going to have a bit of that? Gets in team of the tournaments.
Yeah.
Gets to, the latter stages, and when we have sort of fell at the final hurdle, it's not his fault. Yeah. He's not responsible for that. So I do feel he's a little bit hard done by in some respects when it comes to England. People doubt his England credentials. I think he's just smashed it for England. I mean, I'm not overly bothered about England as such, but I would like to see it for Harry Maguire's sake, him getting there, because it obviously matters to him, and being in your sort of early 30s, you've not got many tournaments. This is probably his last chance to go into a World Cup. So I think it would be good for him to go, and I think he deserves it. But you never know Tuchel, because he's a bit off his head, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? I know you might not want to say it, because you probably have to deal with him at some point. But
I don't know if I will. I mean, obviously, if he's been linked with United,
might end up with United. He might remember it if you say, didn't you say I was off my head once on a podcast?
They've already had these discussions, haven't they? United and Tuchel didn't go anywhere, so it'd be weird if he then voxed up after that. But
you never know with United, though, do you? But no, I hope Harry Maguire does get an England squad. One player who might get an England squad as well, and has also got a contract situation.
Let's see where you're going with this one.
This nice little segue.
Very nice.
Yeah, you impressed there.
And people say that you're not the main, Inside United presenter.
Exactly. People act like I'm just, some sort of mascot.
Who needs Joe?
Exactly. Joe who? Kobbie Mainoo. Yeah, who's had a rejuvenation under Michael Carrick. Obviously played his part in those wins against Arsenal and Manchester City. Doing very well. We'll start with the contract situation, and we can maybe talk a little bit about England if you want. Where are we up to with his contract? Because what's going on with his contract, right, Laurie? I want to know, because
I like this, Jay. Come on, you got some passion
I feel
behind
like
here now.
I remember me and you chatting about this ages ago, and I think Chris Wheeler did a piece on it about 18 months ago, when Kobbie Mainoo's star was pretty high, and it was like he wants X amount of money, and then some people say it might not be that much, and maybe his camp were pushing back on some of the numbers that were being quoted, but he's willing to sign it. The club want him to stay. He's a part of the future plans. Then Amorim comes in, uses him a bit in the first season. To be fair, it's not like Kobbie Mainoo wasn't part of it, but it's not as often as you'd expect. He wasn't like a regular starter. He got, was it a minute in the Europa League final? Then this season he just doesn't start any Premier League games, and then it's like, well, actually, should we be giving him a new deal if the manager doesn't rate him or doesn't want him? Now Carrick's come in. Everyone loves Kobbie Mainoo. I mean, I've always loved him, but everyone's like, look, you can see what he's about. This contract situation, though, is still there, and it doesn't feel like it's moved anywhere. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't think anything has happened today. Clearly, it's something that needs sorting. I would imagine that United will, at some stage now, that there's clarity around the head coach position, go to Mainoo's camp and try and sort something out. But listen, he's been on a contract since, was it February 2023? Which is, he'd only made a few appearances at that point, and so it had inbuilt pay rises in it, but I think something like 25 grand a week.
It's weird, Danny, right? Because when you say 25 grand a week, 20 years old, me and you sat going, yo, my heart bleeds.
Well, it was sort of 18 at that point.
18, 25 grand a week, no one's sort of feeling too sorry for you.
Yeah.
But I understand the point that if you're a situation where you're a regular for Manchester United, you're playing for England, which at one point he was, and you've got teammates who are sat on the bench, barely touching the ball, barely getting on, who are on a lot more money than you. In some cases, like be on 5, 6, 7 times what you're on.
Well, for example, Casemiro, more than 10 times, right?
Yeah, which someone 10 times, do you know what I mean?
Which, okay, it's Casemiro. He's won 5 Champions Leagues, so
I mean,
there's a different.
I'm not saying he should be on the same as Casemiro, and there's obviously
if he's playing and he isn't, then
at
you
least
can
maybe not
him thinking
10 times less.
So
do you know what I mean?
It's a little bit more.
It irks me that Joe Smith's on 10 times what I'm on. Do you know what I mean?
Is it only? He told me. I won't say any more.
Is it more?
Listen.
Well, I didn't get paid till like.
I think he also does get paid in Hong
avocado.
Kong bao buns as well.
Hemp. Satchels, whatever it is he carries around with him, the absolute hipster. Sorry, we do love Joe Banner. We've had a dig at him a lot, but we do love him. So don't get involved.
He'll have his right to reply at some point.
Sticking up for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I get both sides of the argument that as a kid who's on a lot of money playing Manchester United, but also he's got teammates who ain't playing, who are on far more than he is. And if you're his agent or his camp or whatever, you're going to be like, look, my priority is to get this lad as much money as we can.
Yep.
And we need to sort it sooner rather than later, because we all know how short your career is, or things can change. Like, look, the changing manager changed the situation from Kobbie Mainoo. That might happen again in the future. So how do you see this going? How do you think it's going to end? Because surely Manchester United would want to keep Kobbie Mainoo. And from what we gather, he wants to stay at the club.
Yeah, I think if he could stay at the club, that would be the ideal solution for everybody. I think he wants to stay. I think United want him to stay. Obviously, Ruben Amorim's decisions over him complicated matters, and that's, I think, why they didn't approach him over a new contract in this whole period. So they had talks. When you were talking about earlier, this feels like it's been going on for 18 months. They obviously had talks. When he broke into the team, was a consistent performer, starting for England at a Euros final. That's when it kind of hit a kind of pivotal moment. And I think that the sort of request, that the conversations were of a significant figure, shall we say. Obviously, I don't know the exact numbers, and people can debate that, but it will have been a big contract. That is what I think Kobbie Mainoo wanted at that point in his career, because you're in a team like Manchester United, you're playing for England, there's colleagues that he'll have had, teammates that he's had, that will probably be talking to him about what they're earning, and so he'd be thinking, okay, well, for example, Cole Palmer, he had his move to Chelsea at this point, so you've got...
There's no doubt Cole Palmer have told Kobbie Mainoo what he's on. As soon as he signed that contract, before he even signed it, he probably rang him,
listen, from one Stockport lad to another.
Guess what I'm on here, man.
So you can understand why, and you have to be serious about that. You can look at the club, look at the way the club can be brutal in certain circumstances, when it comes to sporting directors, when it comes to head coaches. So as a player, you've got to have agency, you've got to protect your sort of rights, and now you can maybe say, I'm glad that he's come into the team and has performed as well as he has done, because there was pressure on him to do so, given all that was spoken about him, given his brother making that statement at a game, and people feeling a certain way about that, understandably.
Didn't help any of that, did it?
So I think now that he's actually on the pitch, reminding people of the joy that he can bring to fans, as from United point of view, when he's on the pitch, okay, now it'll come to a head, the contract situation, because he's got 1 year left in the summer, +1. So you're getting into territory now where, United, the leverage sort of turns into the players' favour, because they don't want to lose this kind of player for any for an amount of money that isn't what his value is. And I know that maybe even last summer they would have considered something, given Amorim's clear view on him. I'm glad that didn't happen, and I'm glad that there were people at the club thinking, can we think about the long term here? But clearly United then at that juncture miss an opportunity to sit down at the table. So this is a year after the Euros final. They could have sat down then again, but clearly no talks were had. I think probably from Mainoo's point of view, he wouldn't have accepted anything because he realised he wants to play football and these opportunities were limited. But obviously the picture now changes again. So let's see. But I think it's premature to say that any talks have started. But yeah, I think that naturally they will, in the weeks to come.
I mean, it saddened me a lot under Amorim what was going on with Mainoo, because it wasn't just the fact that he wasn't playing. And I rate Kobbie Mainoo. It was just like, it kind of, you had a lot of fans who were just like, oh, he's not that great anyway, he ain't got the legs for midfield, he's overrated. And I'm like, what are we on about here? Why are we
most in the last 2 games?
Why are we trying to rewrite history about this player? Like, fair enough if Amorim don't want him in the team, or if you don't think he fits in the system, let's not pretend he's crap. Let's not pretend that the player that was, man of the match on his debut at Goodison, or player man of the match against City in the FA Cup final. Let's not just say, oh yeah, he's rubbish.
Scored against Lyon.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like that goal against Wolves that had us all. Yeah, like this is a player who's obviously quality.
Can make a key difference in crucial elements of the game. Like, even the goal, even Cunha's goal.
Yeah.
So United obviously 2-2. But and I think Carrick's substitutions have to be applauded here, where you put Sesko on for Dorgu rather than defensive substitution, even though they were winning the game. So you've still got that potency, you've still got that ability to push Arsenal back. Anyway, Lomon's long kick, Sesko gets the high ball, Bruno, Kobbie. Now, rather than retain possession, Kobbie's thinking forward, ping it through. It's a tight gap to get it through to Cunha, and then he continues his run actually. So you're talking about covering ground or whatever. He's there in the final third trying to offer for Cunha as a return pass that maybe allows Cunha that extra bit of space. Anyway, the shot is ridiculous, isn't it? And the force.
I hope Kobbie turned to him and said, like, you couldn't have missed with that pass.
Yeah.
Put it on a plate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, you celebrating for? You should have been running over to me. Do you know what I mean? No, we know you've seen his value, and hopefully he can sign a deal. I get the argument that he shouldn't be on ridiculous money, because I think we've been guilty of that in the past, haven't we? Like, where we've thrown huge amounts of money. Marcus Rashford's probably the best example. Has a really good season at Ten Hag, then becomes one of the highest paid players in the league, and then his form deserts him, and all of a sudden you've got this. It
affects things, doesn't it? If you've got a massive contract, it does affect mentality. It must just be impossible not to. But there's obviously and I think this is something from the Ineos regime, that they want to incentivise contracts, don't they? I think that's.
I like that. That's old school, isn't it?
A bit more old school, maybe. Yeah. We'll obviously have to analyse the accounts when they come through to see if that's actually been the case.
Don't envy that. We'll just quote tweet you.
Yeah, fine,
when you've done all that hard work.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we can't be bothered. I just want to ask you one final thing quickly on Mainoo. Do you know who the driving force was on sort of wanting to keep him at the club and being a bit averse to the idea of moving him on? Because I think, like you mentioned there, Amorim didn't really rate him that highly, or didn't think he was, right for the system, or certainly not to start any games, because he didn't start him all season. And it wouldn't have been a surprise, I think, if he'd have left, considering what was going on. But there was a lot of rumours and reports, as you said it yourself, that the club were reluctant to let him go. Do you know who the driving force was that?
It depends. I don't know. I would be speculating, because there's certainly some elements of the club that would probably think, well, if he's not starting for Amorim, then we should cash in now, because his value might decrease even further. So this was sort of last summer. I don't think there was ever any instinct to kind of push that, but there was, I think, conversations around that. So I'd be reluctant to say the club absolutely wanted to keep Kobbie Mainoo at all costs, but clearly there were people in there that were saying, should we just have a little think about this? I mean, so I'm off the top of my head here thinking, but I remember Jason Wilcox talking about Cole Palmer when he had him at Man City, and I think there was an interview that he did with the Telegraph. I think it was James Ducker's piece, where he was talking about Cole Palmer. And I think maybe around the Euros actually, when he was hitting goals, and he became England's star player, didn't he? Really, Palmer.
Yeah.
And he'd had an experience with David Brooks when he released David Brooks from City at City's
Academy.
Went
to Bournemouth.
Yeah, so he's now he's brilliant. I covered him when he was at Wales. Actually, he won 2 awards before he then had cancer, and he's come back from that. And
we were linked with him. Do you remember?
Yeah, at that
I think
time.
You put me onto the Athletic Bournemouth reporter.
Oh, did I?
Is it Peter? Rutzler, yeah, you did, because we did a news on him. I think we did a Tier 1 podcast on him because United were linked with him.
Okay,
and I think the link was very loose. It was like
was
he
it
was
David
on
James? Was it Daniel James time? Was that?
It might have been. It was a few years ago. It was like early days of this channel, so it would have been like the early sort of 2020, 2021.
Right, yeah.
But I think he was on a list, and that list was like 100 people or so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, obviously Jason Wilcox has got experience with this.
Sorry, yeah. So he was saying that David Brooks, he felt that he'd maybe released him too soon.
Right.
And then with Palmer, there was people in the City Academy that were saying, is he good enough? And he thought he'd seen something in him, and he didn't want to make the same mistake that he had with David Brooks, is what he was saying in this interview. So I don't know. Could you map that onto the Kobbie Mainoo situation and think, well, you've actually got a much bigger amount of evidence with Kobbie Mainoo than you had with either of those players.
Yeah, because you're not talking about a player who's done well at just the academy under 21 level. You're talking about someone who's done well internationally and first team against top tier opposition. Yeah. So it does seem, it's a weird one, isn't it, though, because it's like almost political, isn't it, when you've got a manager who's not playing him and you're not trying to tell the manager what to do.
And this is why it's so hard to detect. It's the sort of well-known sort of saying, well-known concept in football. When a player does badly, no one's responsible for recruiting him. When a player does well, everyone's like,
oh yeah,
I thought about that.
Yeah.
So it's always hard a little bit. So as a journalist, you're trying to speak to as many people as possible to understand the situation. But I remember speaking to somebody when it looked like the end of Amorim's reign was coming to a head, really, and they said to me, Kobbie Mainoo could be the big winner in all this, to be honest, because he will start matches now.
Do you feel like Mason Mount might be the loser in this? Because he's sort of gone from, he was Amorim's guy, wasn't he? And I rate Mason Mount. I thought he's having a very good season, despite United's ups and downs. But I know it's only early doors. It's 2 games under Carrick. I don't want to get Carrick, and we've got an injury to Dorgu. But it does feel like Mount now has almost sort of swapped places with Mainoo, in the sense that it's like you feel like maybe Bruno's stopping him getting in the team, maybe.
Well, this was always when Mount was signed and Bruno's clearly the number 10. It was like, well, he has to be one of those 2 deeper positions. Yeah. Is he really going to force Bruno out of the team? I do like that at least you've got an option now with maybe Bruno's still doing it, isn't he? But I like to have an alternative to him, and he can play off the leg. It would be interesting.
Because to be fair, you're right. He can. He's not like he's just set as a 10. I just feel like in this system as well, that's his best position.
I agree with you. So for the rest of this season, it'll be interesting how many minutes he gets. Then if United are in the Champions League, though, you've got a player there that's won the Champions League. So you need a squad of quality players, and so that's when hopefully he would then still be a very valuable member of the squad.
We just need Champions League football, man, for so many reasons. Come on, it's I can't. And now the bad thing is about winning these 2 games, if I can find a negative, is I expect it. I expect Champions League football.
No, we're moving on to that. Yeah,
it's like if we don't get Champions League football, I'll be gutted and devastated. Whereas a few weeks ago, I thought it's probably not going to happen. Where now you're like, it's got to happen, hasn't it?
It's just the competitors, they're just not. Liverpool are still fallible. To be fair, Chelsea have actually done all right, haven't they, recently?
David Brent's doing well there, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Maybe he's got something.
I know. Everyone thought he was sort of like a bit of a joke appointment, and coming out with all this nonsense about man age and all that rubbish. But he's 5 out of 6 wins, and
just done Conte in the Champions League,
mate. You can't argue with those results.
I still think they've got a sort of soft underbelly that will, in certain moments, see them drop points. So maybe that's just me hoping rather than
Chelsea. Just crazy. They might sack him tomorrow because he's done something they didn't like. He's just a crazy club, even by our standards. In the water over at Stamford Bridge. I want to ask you a couple more bits before I let you get off. The coaching staff under Michael Carrick. What can you tell us a little bit more about them? Because I know that Roy Keane was a bit underwhelmed, wasn't he? But Roy Keane's underwhelmed by everything at the minute.
Underwhelmed to say the least. Yeah, it's more aggressive than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was like laying into everyone. Yeah. But we know that we've got, is it Travis Binion's involved, Johnny Evans, obviously Steve Holland and Jonathan Woodgate. Tell us a little bit more about the coaching setup and why you think these people are in the jobs. Yeah,
I think Steve Holland's the really intriguing one, and I think the shrewd one, really, and it has probably been said a lot already, but it was a name that when I saw it first I was like, that's pretty smart, that, because of the experience that he's got outside of United, that it's not just jobs for the boys, it looks like. You
need that, don't you? You need that balance.
Which I think is probably what Roy Keane's getting at, although, in football sometimes that just happens, right? Obviously someone has to give him an opportunity at Sunderland, for example. So occasionally, people who is a valid reason for giving somebody a job, but I would push back. I think in this circumstance you need a kind of a contrast of ideas that complement each other, that kind of push back and is robust. I was speaking to somebody that knows all about this, and they were saying that they'd pick somebody for a number 2 job because they've worked with them before, but they had serious arguments about football decisions, and that they felt that made them come to the right conclusion ultimately. So I think Steve Holland certainly knows his own mind. I think he's made that point to the players, and I think that he is very diligent in the sessions that he maps out. So I think his role in this is something to just note. But then you've got Michael Carrick at the top of it, that clearly is somebody that is not above listening to other people, but has got his own mind on things and his vision of how he would want a Manchester United team to play. He's obviously got that relationship with Jonathan Woodgate previously at Middlesbrough. And like I say, if United win matches, nobody would be fussed that Jonathan Woodgate played for Leeds United.
I know. I mean, to be... It's not just the Leeds thing. I get that. Yeah. But Eric Cantona's probably the most iconic player we've had, certainly Premier League era. He was at Leeds. Rio was at Leeds. Dennis Irwin, I think, started off at Leeds. The whole Leeds United connection isn't the be-all and end-all. I think there was that checkered history, if I'm being polite, which people look at and go, hang on a minute, really?
It's a fair concern to have, I suppose.
I think that was something that put a few of us off, myself included. I was like, really? But like you say, if he's helping Michael Carrick win football matches as United managers, and you go, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And then Johnny Evans.
Morals go out the window when we're winning matches.
Well, I don't know if we'll go that far, hopefully, but it just doesn't become as much of a talking point, does it?
It doesn't.
And listen, we'll see how this end of season goes. But I think Johnny Evans, again, he kind of bore the brunt, didn't he, of some of Keane's criticism.
Yeah, which is a bit weird, because it was like he just ignored everything that was positive about Johnny Evans or anything that made sense about it. And he was like, he's been on the beach for the last 2 weeks or whatever, or last 3 months, and now he's got a United job. And you think, well, hang on a minute, look, and this whole argument of there's other ex-players that have won more than Johnny Evans at United, or that have been around. There always is. Brian Robson's one of the best players we've ever had, or Roy Keane himself, or Rio, or whoever. But are these coaches that could come in and be a part of this? No, not really. Whereas you look at Evans, he's literally played alongside some of these players. How many people can say that who were in a coaching role?
And I think that's the crucial element in this particular arrangement, because you've got Michael Carrick, who obviously has played for the club for many years and then has been an assistant manager to the club, but he hasn't necessarily known. He knows Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, but there's a few Kobbie Mainoo from when he was coaching him when he was a young kid, which is interesting. But there's players in the last 2-3 years that he hasn't been at the club that he won't know. Same with Steve Holland, same with Jonathan Woodgate. So Evans actually is that link between, listen, it looks good in training right now, but actually when he gets into a game, he does this, or just those little nuances that I think you can feed in. And he's obviously not running the sessions. Clearly, that would be an issue, I think, given his limited coaching career to date, if that was the case. But as a sort of auxiliary person in that arrangement, I think that is fair enough, really, that you've got somebody that knows what he's talking about.
It's not meaningless. I don't think any coach at United is meaningless, but it seems such a strange thing to get annoyed at. I just think Keane's on one in it, and the whole him and Carrick's wife, and it's just like, can we not? Can we just not have this soap opera going on? It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help Keane. It doesn't help the club. And I mean, Keane might not be bothered, but it just seems like a big distraction, and it's like this ongoing thing. And then, I think Keane said, didn't he, if Carrick wins all 17 games or whatever, he still shouldn't get the job, which...
I mean, seems... the way where I'm at with that is... when it was clear that United that we're going to go with somebody with United heritage, my initial instinct was that's because the fans are going to be, what on earth is going on here? That's the third big call that's gone wrong. We need somebody with United heritage that would then kind of keep them people on side. There is an additional argument that actually, if you know the club, and I would subscribe to this, then you do have those kind of, I don't know, that muscle memory from previous experiences that you can reflect on and use to then make the club better. But clearly it's got to be the right person still. But if Carrick goes and does fantastically now, there's no guarantee that somebody else coming in with a different CV would be better. If that, I don't know. If that follows.
I hear it, because I think the reason that a lot of people push back on Carrick and aren't too keen on him getting a job permanently, and when I say people, I mean even United fans, is this sort of idea that we messed up with Ollie, and that this is another Ollie situation. And I think there are differences. I mean, for starters, we don't know what Carrick's going to do. At the end of the season, we might be sat in 8th and go, it didn't work out. We had a good start. It fizzled. Thanks for your time, and it's time to move on. But if we were to have success, if we were to get Champions League football, then he'd obviously come off the back of a great run. And the difference with Ollie was, it was a situation where he didn't get the job at the end of a season when you could take stock. He got the job after a great run and then 2 losses. We lost 2 games.
Well, they almost did it, didn't they, as a kind of response to try and arrest the losses.
Yeah, and it didn't work because we lost at Wolves, I think, in the FA Cup. We lost at Arsenal, then we lost at Wolves. Yeah. And it was like, right, we'll give him the job permanently now. And then little did we know that the last part of that season was a horrendous run. And he went on a kind of run that he probably wouldn't have got it if they'd have waited. I'm not saying he didn't do well as a manager. I think there were some good points, but it is different, isn't it? Because of the situation you're in now, where if they were to decide at the end of the season when they can truly take stock, that's not the same as giving it to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the sort of 2/3 of the way of the season after he's just had back-to-back losses. So I do feel there's a difference there.
I think also as well, there's this element of you haven't planned for this, so it's just happened. If you happen to give Michael Carrick the job ultimately, people will probably say, is that really great thinking? Is that really wisdom that's brought him to it's kind of chance, really, that you kind of needed somebody to fill the gap. You've gone for Carrick, he's available, and he wanted the job. He's done really well. It's just circumstance rather than you've thought about who you want to be your manager. You've gone out decisively and gone and got them. But then again, they did that with Ruben Amorim, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So
that was as planned. Oh well, you think it was as planned as it could be when you sack a manager, where it was like, no, this is
I think I would say so. Yeah,
and it was. Let's be honest, it was a disaster.
Yeah,
like I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but come on, let's just be real. Just on Ruben Amorim very quickly. I don't think we've heard from him in any way, shape, or form. Not even the obligatory. I want to thank the fans, for their support. And I, wish the club all success. Does that surprise you at all? Is he, is that
it does probably.
A bit odd, isn't it? You usually get something, don't you?
Well, that's it. So one argument might be, well, is it just words at times? It's kind of like the done thing. So I have to go through this process of thanking the fans, and sometimes it feels a little bit hollow because it's clearly been put through the PR machine, and obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't when he wanted to do that interview, and you could see the emotion in him.
Emotional as you're going to get.
I'm probably surprised because whenever there was fans around the stadium, around Carrington, Ruben Amorim was very good with his time.
My family waited after the Wolves game last season, my youngest and my missus, and we'd lost, and they waited. And they said they had a photo with him. They said he spoke to and had photos with every fan that was there. Yeah. And this after a defeat. The reason I mentioned in the game is because after a defeat, a manager probably just wants to go and just forget about the game or look at study the game, whatever. But they said he was like proper sort of friendly and stuff, which I respect. I think that is an important part of being United manager. But yeah, it's kind of odd, isn't it? I mean, you look at how he was with the fans, like face to face, and the reputation he had.
But he did always, when after games, he never stuck around to applaud the fans, did he? He always was down the tunnel pretty much, and he never spoke to the players after games. He was sort of saying that he wanted to do it the clear head the next day. But there's certain gaps in that connection maybe sometimes that you'd think would be there. But like I say, I would think that you would probably leave it a week and then sort of release.
Now it gets to the point where it's a bit long, innit now?
Well,
and now you're like, why are you doing it now?
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest with you, going back to the coaching thing you mentioned there, Laurie, where you're going about like having a balance between people who are outside the club and people who've been in the club. I think Ruben Amorim might have suffered from having just too many people that knew nothing about United.
A lot of people think that.
Yeah, inexperienced of being at a big club anyway, and also have no connections with United, and no disrespect to sport in Lisbon, but it's not the same, is it, coming from a club like that, especially when you've got coaches who are in the 20s and 30s and stuff. It's a big job to go into that. I think maybe he suffered a little bit because of that. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons it didn't work out with Ruben Amorim. That could be one of them. Just before I let you go as well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the youngster that we were in for, I think, but has ended up at
Chelsea, Yissa Allo.
You've done a little piece on that.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that United have. I think they've changed approach since Ineos have come in. They've wanted to be more aggressive in the market for sort of young players really that could, I guess, be bought for low amount of money and develop with the club. So I mean Aidan Heaven probably a good example of that.
Already looks like a bargain, doesn't he? £1 million.
Yeah.
I think you've already seen the qualities he's got. He's been he's had matches where he's been player of the match. He's looked Premier League level easily. So that's a good example of how that can work. And also, if it doesn't work out, no one's going to be spewing about the fact that we've wasted for want of a better word, £1 million on a player.
That's the idea, and obviously then it's a gauge, and this is what's happened here. I think with Allo at Sheffield Wednesday, who's at left back. So it's interesting, right? Harry Amos has been there and been playing ahead of him, and he's only a year older. But I think that people think that Allo's a really good player, got a high potential ceiling. But yeah, he's going to Chelsea. He's gone signed for Chelsea. I think the money, the amount that he was going to cost in transfer fee got too rich for United's blood, but they were in for him. So I think it's another example of them trying to be aggressive early on with younger talents to see if they can then come into the team. So for example, in the summer they tried to go for Seth Ridgen, who was at Fulham, England's under-17s captain, and Tyrese Nabusi, who was leaving Man City, ended up going to Strasbourg actually. So they had them in the building and tried to persuade them, and it would have been again significant for that level commitment to get them to join. But so yeah, they haven't been successful in any of those, but there's been other occasions when you go abroad, and they've obviously clearly got Diego Leon, for example, that kind of calibre. So yeah, let's see. I don't think it's a good thing to kind of keep an eye on, because I think that's probably an area that United maybe haven't been as aggressive on previously. And so yeah, let's see if they can end up getting some of the talents across the line. Because
it is a criticism levelled at United quite a lot in it, that we go for the players after they've been to a Premier League club when they're worth, or their asking price is 70 million or whatever, rather than trying to get them before they go to Brighton or wherever, and the value escalates. Now, some people might go, well, you need them to go to a stepping stone to United, but you can have your cake and eat it. You can bring in these young players, get them used to being around United. If you want, you can loan them out. Do you know what I mean? Or you can develop them. Some of the best players I've had have come through the ranks at United, haven't they? Sort of 15 onwards.
Yeah.
You look at Class of 92 and all the rest of it. So it is good that United do that, and I think you need to do that in this day and age. You can't ignore it. I know we've always done it, but stepping up a bit makes sense to me.
Well, particularly with the Brexit premium now, obviously, not being able to get players until they're 18 from Europe. So when you're looking at 16, 17-year-olds, if they're the top calibre in England, there's going to be a market for them. It's becoming a bit of an issue, really, because you get these points at which they can leave their academies, 14 and then 16, and it becomes a bit of a feeding frenzy, and money does escalate. But so I think United are trying to be aggressive with it, but equally not go beyond what they're comfortable.
It's mad that there's the power that these youngsters have got. You look at JJ Gabriel and everyone's sort of panicking already, aren't they? I think he's got another 18 months left on his deal, and it's like, is he going to stay at United? Should we do everything? Take another picture with the manager. Quick.
Well, it's an FA Youth Cup run, another win on Friday night, wasn't it, against Derby, with extra time, but he's starting that. So hopefully, I would love that to be another 2022 example where they end up playing at Old Trafford in front of a big crowd. I mean, that was an insane crowd, wasn't it? 70,000.
Forest game. Class that, wasn't it?
In a season of turmoil.
I love it's a history repeat, another season of turmoil. But hopefully it won't be that bad this season now that Carrick's at the wheel. Laurie, always a pleasure, bro. Thank you for coming in. Keep up the great work on The Athletic and Talk of the Devils as well. We had Carl Anker the other day.
His tactics board.
Tactics board, you know what I mean? He loves a bit of that, doesn't he? So love listening to you guys. It's great bands with you, Andy and Ian and Carl. It's always good stuff.
Thanks.
So go and check out, there's a link in the description, Talk of the Devils. Go and check out Laurie's work on The Athletic. That's been Laurie Whitwell. Let me do that again. It's not Laurie Whitwell. It's Laurie Whitwell. I've been Jay Marty. This has been Inside United. Thanks for watching.
Better than what I used to get at school. Laurie Shitwell.
Was it? It's so obvious.